Okay, good morning everyone. This is the second video in a series on continuing our analysis on our top to bottom analysis on Euro USD. So the next thing for us to do is identify our trend lines. We're still on the weekly time frame, so right now we're identifying our trend line on the weekly time frame. So what is a trend line actually? If I'm being honest, despite how long I've been trading Forex, I don't really have a definition that's off the top of my head. Trend lines are defined in so many different ways. But ultimately, what matters is not how you define it, but how you use it. It's like you can speak English from now to tomorrow, but do you know what you're talking about? Maybe that doesn't make a lot of sense. But so, anyways, trend line, definition of trend line. So, a trend line is essentially a line drawn to identify the general direction of price. So that's the easiest way to describe it. Trend line is drawn to show you whether the price is moving upwards in overall or downwards overall. A more detailed definition of trend line is a line drawn from the two peaks or two troughs, that's the two, in this case it's a downward, since an upward trend line, we have two troughs, two bases, 1 and 2. So a trend line is a line drawn across these two bases or troughs, projecting upward price movements. This could also be two. Let me go down to the daily time frame because I can actually see it on the daily time frame. So on the daily time frame, we have, let me change the price system. Okay, so on the daily time frame, we have a bearish trend line like this. On the daily time frame, we have a bearish trend line like this. And this time we can see that it's drawn from two peaks instead of two troughs. Among the rules of drawing trend line is that your trend line must touch the peak of the wicks. It must touch the wicks and not the body. It's a daily trend line. But that rule is, it's not a bad rule, but it's not ever a rule kept as an absolute. The reason being that you don't take trades off of trend lines. The best way to look at the trend line is actually like this. The best way to look at the trend line is actually like this. Rather than to look at the trend line as a single line on the chart, you should think of your trend line as more like a range of price movement. Not an individual point, but a region where price acts in a certain way. That is the best way to look at your trend lines. It's even the best way for you to look at your zones. For example, now your weekly zones. Rather than to look at it as a single line on the chart, you look at it as a region of price movement. Within this particular price range, price acts like this. You can see that since I expanded it, you can see that we have this like this, which will act as a lower level support level, or before it was broken at least. So that's how you. So that's it. So now we've drawn our trend line on the daily time frame, as well as our trend line on the weekly time frame. There's also a trend line here, but this trend line has long since been violated. Ooh, but I like this very much. This is what we call what do you call it again? Forgive me, I beg. This is what you call oh my god, I'm not drawing a blank. When price uses the back of the trend line as though it was a support or resistance level, it's what we call diagonal support and resistance levels. This is what we call diagonal support and resistance levels. Of course, this is just a trend line. Diagonal support and resistance level is just like to me, it's just a way of explaining how trend lines sometimes act as support and resistance level. You can see that price bounced off the trend line once, twice, and then 3 times. The fourth time, price broke through the base of the trend line and they used the trend line almost like a support turn to resistance level, and they use it to trigger a bearish move. So that's why even when a trend line is broken, it is sometimes still relevant to leave it on your chart. So that's it for this video. Next, let's move on to identifying our trend origin and our market structure.